Morning, y'all. Welcome back. Today we are going to build a dump truck, and I'm going to do this start to finish. Obviously, we're going to cut out a couple times because there's going to be a couple boring parts, and then I'm going to have to do some cutting and some hacking with my Dremel, and that thing is just too loud to put on video, and I haven't quite figured out how to mute this thing yet. So, I'm gonna do two videos here. I'm gonna build I got these backwards. Gonna do the black dump truck, and then we're gonna do a green flatbed. But before we get into that, let's show you the progress on my dually. All right, as you can see, it's all covered in putty here. Got the top. I just redid the top two. Then we got the side over here. We got some putty on the side. Now this is my third round of putty, and that's just because when this stuff dries, it does shrink a little bit. So after you sand it down, you run I usually use my fingernail. I usually have long fingernails. You run my fingernail across it, and if I can feel any kind of a divot where my seam is, then I'll put more on there. So I just put this on last night. I did the roof this morning because I was looking at the roof this morning and I didn't like it, so I put a little bit more on there. I got way too much, so this stuff is really easy to work with. I can cut the high spots off with my knife and then sand the rest of it down. So that's where we're at with that. This week I put a dually together. I have not glued in the toolbox or the back window rack, so we're just going to pull them out for right now. Got the diesel exhaust tip on there. Painted the bed. This one had a fifth wheel gooseneck attachment in the bed. Popped that out. You can still see where it was glued, and it also left a little silver paint on there, so I went ahead and I just painted the bed black too. So that truck is just about ready. We jacked it up on some M2 tires. Got the original Chevy rims on there. Painted the bottom. You can see I got the exhaust tip on there. So that truck is coming along pretty well. I just need to glue in the toolbox and the back window rack. The reason I painted the back window rack chrome is just because I want it to stick out a little better, stick out a little more. I painted the toolbox black, and that pretty much blends in with the truck. So if you painted the back rack black also, it's going to come out the same way. It's just going to get lost. You'll see the taillights, but the rest of the rack is going to be lost because it's all black and it blends in. So I wanted that to stick out, so I painted that chrome. So that's the reason I didn't do it black. I almost painted the toolbox chrome, but I know a lot of people are into blacked out, this, that, and the other. So I went ahead and did the toolbox in black. All right, so there's where we are with those two trucks. Now, I've already gone ahead and done some popping apart here to save some time and effort. What we're going to use here is a truck that I've already done. Jack, this is an Auto World Chevy, probably about a 73, maybe 74. I can't remember. I'm not sure. I painted over the bottom, so you can't tell. I really like this truck. I went ahead and, like I said, I put some M2 wheels and tires on here with some chrome wagon wheels. I really like that, but somehow got some overspray on this truck. Got mad and put it away. I've cleaned off the overspray, so there's a little tiny bit on the windshield, but what we're going to do is we're going to change this windshield out from another truck. I'm going to swap it out so that the windshield doesn't have overspray on it. Like I said, I got most of the overspray off of the rest of the truck, so it's pretty clean. And now we're going to pop this baby apart. So, like I said, I've already taken it apart. I've already drilled out all the rivets. This is what we're after, guys and girls, is the cab. Being an Auto World, the hood comes up. Got a decent engine in there. They do pretty good on painting the block and making things pop in there. So it's weird, though. Sometimes they paint them and sometimes they don't. I've got a few Auto Worlds that they didn't paint. I got a few of them that they did paint. So, this is what we want off of this truck, is we wanted the cab. Now we're going to take the rest of this and stick it off to the back, because we will save that chassis because it's a Highboy chassis. we will save the bed because it's in good shape, and I want the wheels and tires back off of it. Now, onto the dump truck. This is a 2018 3500 Laramie. I've already popped the rivets on this. First thing we're going to do is we're going to get that snowplow off of there because I'm thinking about using the snowplow in my build. Usually I pull out my really fine tip snips and just grab the end of it best I can, give it a little pull, and it normally comes right off. It wants to be stubborn today because we're on camera. There, popped right off. So now we've got our snowplow. Oop, not in your sight, but yeah, now we got our snowplow off. So we'll set that off to the side. Now, to get the cab off of here, I've already done the rivets. You can see it's loose. Problem is there's two pins that these toolboxes are holding on. So what we got to do is we got to get in there with our flathead screwdriver, and we got to be careful because we don't want to damage it too much because you want to keep and reuse these toolboxes. So you just wiggle your flathead screwdriver. You hear that pop? Wiggle it in there. Here's another pop. Now you just raise the bed up, and this thing should just pull right off. See, there's two little pins in there where they glue it on there. So we got the passenger side off, and we go to the driver's side. Same thing. Get the screwdriver in there. Give it there to pop. There's the other pop. So we'll just work that off of there. There. Now we got our toolboxes off. See where the pins were holding on the back edge of the bed. Now, we're not completely out of the water yet because see this screw here, that screw's got to come out too. Now we just take our Phillips head screwdriver and we yank that screw out. The reason we got to take that screw out is that that screw goes up into the bed and we don't want that there. Hopefully I got it out enough. We'll see. So now there's a plastic piece here on top. What we got to do is we got to pry that up. There with the screw. And we pry that up and this should pop our bed right up out of there. Our cab right out of there. There we go. One cab out. So what we want to do is we want to put this screw back in because we want it to hold this chassis down. So we'll put this screw back over here and we'll screw it back down because we want to keep that plastic tight because that plastic is part of the chassis to our dump bed and we don't want to lose that. Okay, so now what we have is our chassis. These front fender wells have got to come off because they will not work with our truck, as you can see. So again, these dump truck chassis are die cast, so they are a really major pain in the butthole to work on. So you just got to go slow and easy, take your time with your cutters. We're going to pop these front wheels off of here real quick because we are going to reuse those. Well, the whole daggone bar came out. That doesn't happen very often. So we're keeping those because we're going to reuse these wheels and tires. Alright, so there's our chassis. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off the camera and I'm going to cut these fender wells off. See this little tab right here that sticks up? I'm going to grind that down flat because I guarantee that's going to go. And then I'm also, you see how the front of this curves? Well, our Chevy doesn't curve in the front, so I'm going to cut a straight line across here to cut that curve off of there so it doesn't interfere with our bumpers. See how much further that sticks out? Well, you know you can't because I got it set where you can't see it. So right there, you see how much further that round part sticks out? That's going to be hitting my bumper and you're going to see that. We don't want to see that. So we're going to cut that off, grind this tab down, cut both these fender wells off. And then after that, we're going to determine where we're going to cut it so we can glue it back together here. So give me a minute and I'll be right back. Alright, so as you can see, I got the fender wells are cut off. I got it all ground down nice and flat. These Auto World trucks are the hardest to work with because these rivets that they have in here for the dash, and that's what holds the hood on, is the riveted dash in there. It keeps the hood from coming out of place. So And now the hood doesn't want to open for me. There it goes. So we can't really mess with that too much. I can grind it down a little bit, but I do my best to try to work around it, because when I sell this truck, when somebody gets it, I don't want the hood to, when they try to open it, snap off. So I want to try to keep all that on there as much as possible so that the hood stays intact. So we're probably going to have to do a little bit of grinding on the chassis. Let's see how we fit so far. Oh, looky there, ladies and gentlemen. See where I cut the round part off of the truck? Fits up against the back of the bumper nice and tight. We will file that down. You see, you can see some of that underneath the bumper. We'll file all this down so that you can't see that anymore. But let's check for our tire spacing here. And it looks like it fits in there pretty damn good. I think it looks pretty good on there. Got even spacing between the front and back. Everything, it sets on the chassis nice and even. So I'm not going to have to hack into this too much. We are going to lose the sideboards. But we'll lose the sideboards when I cut the side down, because we got to cut the side down so that you can see how it's setting on the sideboards. We need to cut that so that the cab sets level on the chassis. And then as we're doing that, we'll determine where we're going to cut it so that we can slide it back up against the bed. It looks like we're probably going to have to, yeah, these, we're going to have to lose these tabs too, because they won't slide back in there. And we want this thing back as far as it'll go, to right about in that area. So you can see we got a lot to cut off of this chassis. Being, like I said, die cast, it's a little tougher to do because it's harder to cut, so you have to use your Dremel or something. If you don't have one, I know they have saws. How we're going to file this down is I have a file here. Let's take these wheels off. We don't want to scuff our wheels. I put the wheels back on just to test to see where they were going to line up at. So you just take your file and you do a little bit of filing across the top here, or the bottom I should say, and that just filed a bunch of that down, as you can see. So when we put the cab back on, look at there. Now you can't even see it anymore. We already filed off all those edges, got it down nice and flush. Now you can't see it. Looks beautiful. It's going to look real good. This truck's going to come out nice, guys. All right, so let me determine where we're going to cut this. And how I normally determine it is I try to split the cab in half. So this time we're going to want to cut it right below this transfer case. This is where we're going to try to cut it today. Let me get this a little closer for you. Yeah, we're going to cut right behind this transfer case. That's almost halfway. And then when we slide it back in, we're also going to glue it not only to the chassis, but we're going to glue it to this cross member piece back here, this plastic piece we just put the screw back in. And then we'll probably have to file off these two tabs that are sticking up because they are going to be in the way of our cab, I think. So maybe we'll wait on those, but first we're definitely going to cut these two off, and then we're going to cut this in half right behind the transfer case here. So I'll be right back. Alrighty, so we've got this cut now. I went ahead and I cut the running boards off because we don't want the running boards. I got this thing cut in half. It looks pretty straight. I think I'm off a little bit on this one side. I'm going to try to straighten it out with my file just a little bit real quick. Okay, I've got this little hump right here I'd like to get rid of. File I use is just a regular fine metal file. And it's just how hard do you push on it? That's just a regular rat tail file, nothing major. I don't think you can read what it says anymore. It's so old. Okay, so I got most of that out of there. So now we lay it on our chassis, or on our cab. and we start to get the layout of how we want it to be. All right, so now we've got that on there. You can see, no, you can't see. Sorry, I always do this, guys. You can see here that I'm about halfway across the cab, which will leave me plenty of room to glue the back half of the cab on and then glue the back support of the bed onto the back of the cab, and that'll hold the cab on there pretty solid. So I have not cut the cab yet. I did cut the tabs off the back of the cab. So now we'll get this to right about where we want it, which is going to be right about there. And then we determine where we're going to cut it, which looks like we're going to cut it right in front of this cross member. But I want to cut it a little bit long. Always cut it a little bit long, guys and girls, because remember, you can't put any material back. And if you don't cut it straight and you have to do some filing or whatever, that gives you more meat on the truck to do that with. So always cut it longer than you need it to be. You can always cut it again or file it down into place. You cannot replace it after you take too much. So with that being said, we've determined after we slide it back, I want a little bit of spacing between the cab and the bed to give the bed room to come up and down, and always test it, make sure it's going to clear. You know, you get it back too far and then it starts, you know, rubbing on the bed, you know, on the cab. You don't want that. So you want nice, clear. You want to make sure it's plenty of room to open and close. So that's where we want it. Like I said, we're going to cut it just a little bit in front of this cross member, and then we'll put it all back together and see how she fits. We're also going to get rid of the rest of these running boards because we don't need those. See, we got rid of the running boards in the front, and now it sets up there nice and flat and flush and looks pretty good. So now let's get to the back here. The way I cut the fenders, the running boards off, is I just tip the blade of my Dremel and I just score this deeply, and then I take my side cutters and I finish cutting them off. And then I just use my Dremel as a grinder and grind the rest of it down nice and flat. As you can see, this, like I said, I cut this a little bit crooked, but I'm going to grind this down, file this down a little bit, and that's going to help that out. But hopefully we do a better job when we cut this here. So right in front of this cross member is where I want to cut at. And if that's not focusing in, I'm sorry. So yeah, we're going to cut right in front of this cross member. See these two little black tabs that stick out just a little bit in front of that? We're going to cut actually in front of those. So we're going to leave plenty of meat on here in case we need to do some filing and grinding. So let me get that cut and I'll be right back. All right, so now we got that cut. I'm going to stick it on here. As you can see now, it's way down lower than what it needs to be. This needs to come way up. So we're going to have to use some shims underneath of the cab to build it up. And as you can see, that's a pretty good gap. We're going to have to bring that up, so we'll probably use some popsicle sticks here. See if we can't get those in there and make that fit. Let's see here. Probably going to cut it too long. I have to cut it again, but we want it tight. All right, good. That's tight. Now, is that one going to be enough? My guess is no. One is not enough. We need to bring it up more. And another popsicle stick would bring it up more than I think what we want it to, but we're going to try. We'll cut another one and see what that does. Now, every one of these builds is a custom build. It doesn't matter if you've done 10 of them or 20 of them or whatever. Every single truck you build is going to be different. It's going to be different challenges, different problems. Okay, so we got that up. I like the height. Problem is it's sticking up too high down here. So what we'll do is we'll take out that top popsicle stick and we'll get some thinner material to put in there. I have some polystyrene that I can cut a couple pieces and stack in there. Let me get those cut and get this shimmed up to where it's supposed to be, and then I'll be right back. All right, so I've got these shims glued onto the cab. I got 2 of them on there. You can see they run, maybe not, they run a bit of an angle. So which is fine. Is what I'll do is after this dries real good, I'll take my hobby knife and I'll cut part of this high spot down to level it out. Then I still have to glue a piece in the front to get the front to line up. So you can see it runs at a, maybe not, but it runs at a little bit of an angle. We want to level it up a little bit, so we're going to need to raise the front up just a little bit, and then we should have it. So we got to let this dry. That's the unfortunate part about working on trucks, is letting parts dry. But I've already got another project lined up, so we're going to set this one aside, and then we're going to start a new video on a different one. We're going to try to get 2 truck builds out here. So I'll be back with you in a different video. We'll be back on this video in a couple of seconds, so you just won't know it. Bye. All right, guys and gals, we've let all this stuff dry, and we've got the piece in the front. I have not glued that down yet. I've just put it in there because I wanted to see how it was going to make everything line up here. So I think we're looking good there so far. What we're going to do now is get ready to glue this down. I'm going to put the wheels on it, and we're going to make sure that we have those centered in our wheel wells before we glue anything down, because if they're not centered, it's not going to look right. It's going to look stupid. So got that side looks good. This side looks good. You know, we're looking for spacing between the front of the fender and the back of the fender. Just make sure it's square in there. Make sure everything looks good. So that's ready to go. We're going to glue that down. And then, since I can't quit playing with things, I was playing with the bed and I lost, these things have pins in the bed that they rotate on, and I screwed around, and I somehow the pin on the top either fell out or it just never had one in it, so I had to fix that and put one in it. So it was a little tiny bit small, wouldn't stay in, so I had to put a dab of glue on each end of it to hold it in there. So I've just been having it sitting like that, waiting for the glue to dry. And once the glue dries, we're in good shape. So I also went ahead and I put a stick up under here to give it a little bit more support and to give me more to glue to. The more area that you have you can glue to, the better chances of your build staying together long term. Especially if you get a little rough with them sometimes, which I know I do sometimes, you want them to last. So there's all that fill out. So drop all that. And then we got this sits on here. This is going to look good. It's a little bit further away from the bed than I would like. So what I think I'm going to do is this stick that I put in here a little while ago. This is not glued yet, so I'm going to trim the front of that just a little bit, and that'll let the cab slide back just a little smidgen. Make it look just a little bit closer. So that's what we got to do here, guys and gals. I'm going to glue the cab and the bed together, and then I'll get back with you. All right, so now this one's set and dried overnight. So everything looks good. Everything's nice and dry and tight. Bed works. I had a little issue with the bed. I don't know if it was, you probably can't see it, but no, I can't zoom in on that, and it's too dark to begin with. This top pin, it either fell out while I was messing with it, or it just wasn't in there, because yesterday I had an issue that this fell apart, came out, and then I couldn't find a pin for it. I looked everywhere for it, so I had to put a new pin in it and then glue that up and let that dry, and that took a little while too. So I let the whole truck sit overnight and dry. I think it came out pretty nice. What do y'all think? Okay, so now it's just the final detail things we need to do. Got to put the toolboxes back on. That's preference. If you guys don't like the toolboxes, you don't have to put them on. Me, I like them. I think they make it look better. So I'm going to put mine back on, but I won't do that until after I paint the whole thing. As you can see, I got to paint everything because of everything that's been done up here in the front, all the grinding and the cutting. We've lost a lot of paint, so we got to paint all that back. And if I don't paint the rest of it, it's just going to look stupid. So we're going to give everything a nice even coat of flat black paint. We'll go all the way up the sides. I won't worry about the top or the bottom of the bed. We're just going to paint the top of the sides and the bottom of the bed. This thing came out pretty nice, guys and gals. What I'm undecided about is, do we put a snow plow or not a snow plow? Obviously that has to be cut and adjusted to make it fit, but I don't know. I haven't seen any all black ones. This would be an all black bed, all black truck with a black snow plow, so I'm thinking about putting that on there, but I'm not sure. You guys won't know until I show you the final product in the next scene. We still got to put the mirrors on here, toolboxes, paint the bottom of it, and then decide on the snow plow. That may take me an hour or two, but for you guys, it'll be in the next scene. So hang tight. I'll be right back. Bye. All right, so we got this done. All the mirrors are glued on. The toolboxes are back on both sides. Painted the bottom, so now all that mismatched color is gone. Everything is a nice even coat of flat black. And she's good to go, guys and girls. What do you think? I know I've built a couple of these before, but I think this black one looks pretty good. Alright, so we're done with that one. I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye.